All right. Hello, and welcome to another Label Studio webinar. This time, we are lucky enough to have our CTO, Nikolai Luibimov. I hope I didn't butcher your last name, Nikolai, which is a non-trivial thing. As you can imagine, he is rather busy. And not only do we have him, but we have him here to tackle a topic that has been oft requested, very complex. And so it's hopefully this is a webinar that will satisfy a lot of folks in our community who've been asking for something like this. And the community has a hand in whether or not this satisfies that. Please submit questions. We really want to hear your Q&A. We know that there's a lot going into machine learning frameworks, integrations with Label Studio, and we're not going to cover everything. So if there's something of particular interest, don't be shy. Now's the time. Also, I guess I should kind of act like a normal YouTuber for a second. Hey, please like, share, subscribe. I feel so icky even saying that. But yeah, we are using this YouTube channel. Likes help. Please feel free to share if you find this content useful. We're going to keep producing webinars on Label Studio, partner webinars, doing interviews with the community, and we'd love for you to be along for the ride. So thanks for joining us this morning. Nikolai, thank you for your time. I'm going to kick it to you in 1 second. But before I do, let me just go through a couple of housekeeping items. So yeah, this is the run of show. It's very simple. Q&A is going to happen throughout. Again, join our Label Studio Slack community, and the webinars channel is where we're going to be taking questions. The bit.ly is right here. You can copy that. You can click the link in the YouTube live stream chat as well. Or if you're wanting to do it another way or seeing this after the fact, you can go to heartex.com and click the button to join the community right there. So this is all about integrating with machine learning frameworks. I don't think I have much else. I will, you know what? Yeah, let's do this at the top. So we're also on Twitter at Heartex Labs, in case some of you don't know. We have a new NVIDIA blog out, generating high-quality labels for speech recognition with Label Studio and NVIDIA Nemo. You can Google some of that, and I'm sure it'll come up right away, or copy this link. You can also check our announcements channel on Label Studio Slack, and the link is there. Our next webinar, I just want to say this right off the bat, is going to be on June 23rd. It's going to be a partner webinar with Great Expectations, and we're going to be talking about Great Expectations usage with Label Studio. It's going to be a good one, so definitely bookmark that. We'll provide an Eventbrite link on the Monday upcoming. Okay, so that's all of the preamble. Nikolai, I'm going to kick it to you if that's all right.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Yeah.
Yeah. You got it.
Thanks for having me on this talk, and I really enjoyed talking about the machine learning integration, because that's something I'm personally really excited about, and that machine learning is something we're bearing in mind while designing Label Studio, and that's one of the core feature we think that Label Studio will help with the data science team to experiment, to learn new things, and to play with the different tools and to improve their products as a future result. So first of all, I will briefly give you some sense about what is the Label Studio ML integration actually. So I mean, basically it could be anything that you can imagine. Label Studio could be integrated with whatever backend service. We typically call him ML backend, like machine learning backend. So, but you can consider is like any third-party machine learning services, whatever you have, or locally installed, or maybe you can think of some third-party service like SageMaker or whatever you have in your cloud provider as well. So actually, it's just the way how you integrate Label Studio as the front-end part of the way to manipulate with your data, to edit your data, to annotate your data, and the machine learning backend on the other side. And so how we can do that? So as I mentioned, we can do this like with a native tool called ML Backhand, which is supported by Label Studio, but it's not the only one way. You can also use the direct API access for that, just calling some endpoints within Label Studio, which could be used for gathering your data from the Label Studio, gathering annotations, and plug back your predictions from your model, or webhooks, which will be included in upcoming release very soon, and that will be fascinating feature. So, but you may ask why we need Label Studio integration. Actually, that's a good question, because Label Studio supports importing pre-annotated data from the model itself, so you don't need to third-party services running somewhere to be integrated. Well, yeah, that's true, but basically, if you are thinking of increasing the data science experimentation, imagine if you have your model already running, you already set up everything, and you want to play with some sort of hyperparameters to your model, so you don't need to redeploy your model every time you get the parameters, or you are going to tweak something else. So that could allow you fast data science experimentation things that you can keep in mind while doing the Label Studio integration. Another thing that I think very useful in this setup is that you can manually access any number of the model at the same time. So imagine if you can plug multiple models from different services, and you can compare the results of that model side by side. You can get pre-annotated results, and you can compare them. You pick the best one, and that will serve as your ground truth annotation in the future. So yeah, and last but not least is like the seamless machine learning pipeline integration that allows you to build some scenarios like human in the loop, where you can integrate Label Studio in your existing pipeline, and without changing too much, you can, for example, monitor your predictions, or you can fine-tune your models by refining the examples based on the RNL's predictions that we get from the production. So actually, it's quite the thing that you must have inside your machine learning pipeline if you're going to improve your model. So that's what it was about why we need. That's actually how it could be implemented. What are the actual use cases of machine learning integration? So first of all, and I will sketch these use cases, but they are not exhaustive ones. But I will sketch you from by increasing complexity. So the dynamic pre-annotations is something the simplest possible use case we can tackle with the machine learning integration. Then a bit more complex is an online learning, and the active learning is like the top complexity that we can deal with. And I will give you more detail about all these use cases, etc. So what is dynamic pre-annotation? So basically, it's just that getting the predictions of your model and using those predictions as the pre-annotated examples for your task. So like if there are annotators and they are looking at the tasks inside Label Studio. So Label Studio asks your machine learning backend for a request for the predictions, and the predictions return back, and we show up these predictions as the pre-annotated example. So basically that's very useful if you want to rely on your model pre-annotated results and not like static pre-annotations, and you want to get those model results to refine them and to submit them as a final annotation. So that drastically increases the speed of your annotation, as well as allows you that side-by-side model comparison, as I mentioned before. So online learning is the extension of dynamic pre-annotation, is where you add the loop inside the machine learning integration for Label Studio. So basically, after annotators complete their tasks, we allow to submit those annotations inside Label Studio, and Label Studio Label Studio provided sort of to a model training procedure, which consumes and results in the next model version, which allows you to get new predictions and to refine model once you involve all the loop at the same time. For example, if you're annotating a couple of examples, you can run that loop and you can refine the model based on each new example you get. And the active learning is like the rooftop of the use cases I'm describing right now. Is actually a little tweak after online learning, where you can not just pick randomly your annotated task, but based on some prediction score provided by this model version, you can get the less confident example, which means like the most informative example to be annotated next, and that allows you to speed up the model training as a result to decrease the amount of data to be annotated for getting the good performance. Sometimes you can sometimes it could result to even 10% of data of the huge data set to be annotated, which is a real huge time saver. So,
Nikolai.
Yep.
Could we pause here for just a quick sec? We got a couple of questions on active learning, all from user MiwoJC, and thank you for submitting questions. Others, please feel free as well. First question, I think you already answered, and he's already got a follow-up, which is, does Label Studio support the active learning scenario? And I guess the answer is yes, an unqualified yes. The next question is, and you may be actually heading in this direction, what is the preferred way of getting dynamic pre-annotations? There is a setting that says retrieve annotations automatically on task load. Is that the best way to get them, or should you select the task and then get pre-annotations via actions? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Actually, I will cover this in the next slide, but right now I can say that you can do both. So you can either getting the automatically by retrieving the annotations, or you can just select them on the task. Okay, so let's quickly go through all steps you need to set up your machine learning backend with any machine learning framework. But here I just pick, for the sake of simplicity, I just picked the XGBoost, which is very popular framework, and it's very simple as well, because unlike PyTorch or TensorFlow, it doesn't require to set up a lot of code, the boilerplate code to set up the layers. So just basically it's just one line of code to spin up the entire classifier. So the first step you need is to define, so creating the Python script and defining the class which inherits from the Label Studio ML base. Actually, it's everything you need to be compatible with Label Studio, and so Label Studio can understand you in terms of the protocol exchange with the ML backhand we have. So once you declare your model, you can use any of the utils we have inside our machine learning backend to get things done, but it's not. It is optionally. You can tweak everything by yourself. Basically, you need to establish the way how your machine learning backend can understand the label configuration you have inside Label Studio. And I think if you're using Label Studio, you're already familiar with the label XML scheme for label configuration. If not, I will refer you to our previous talks about how you can set up Label Studio, and every detail will be included there. So once you get your XML label configuration, you should get the common variables you will need to set up to get your predictions ready or pre-annotated to be included in the pre-annotation stuff. As a final step, we can define here the model. So it's just very naive examples of how we can define the model, but basically you can do whatever you want to do, like loading the checkpoints from your cloud storage providers and making everything ready at this point. And so that your model will serve your future data, which will come to the request. So, but important thing that we always struggle with is a lot of users forget to install the required packages, because in order to spin up your machine learning backend, you should not forget about installing all environmental packages like XGBoost, scikit-learn in this example. But if you're going to play with the PyTorch or TensorFlow, so please install them, and as well as Label Studio, since it contains a lot of tools to use inside machine learning backend. So the next step is the last one to define a dynamic annotation scenario, is to override the predict method. So where you get the result, get some data from the Label Studio, and you basically return the result in the annotation format provided by Label Studio. This is completely the same annotation format you can find inside the export, besides one thing which we'll cover later on, but basically it's almost the same format, so you're free to return annotations here, and that's how you can get your pre-annotated data. So that's it. So your script to operate as machine learning backend is ready. So the next step is launch the script. So we provide some simple tools for that. So first you need to initialize machine learning backend, then you start machine learning backend, and it starts serving as a separate server on this address. So by copying this address and plugging it back to the add model interface on the machine learning settings page inside the project of your Label Studio, you will get everything done. So last thing that you need to think about is number of options you can play with. So in this setup, we don't require that model will be trained on each example, but we expect, and that is actually referred to the question posted in Slack channel. So we can retrieve our predictions when loading tasks automatically, or we are free not to do that. And as well is some visualization thing is that we can show predictions to annotators in every UI you have here. So yeah, but this is dynamic presentation, and once you are succeed with this, you can go inside your editor interface, start annotating the task, and you will see your model result. So the next thing I wanted to cover is the online learning. Basically, it's after you set all dynamic presentations thing. So enabling online learning could be done in just one step. So you just start model training after any annotation. So it just guides the model to start to trigger annotations once every result will be submitted to Label Studio backend. So that's something that could be something related to online learning, or incremental, so-called incremental model learning, or continual learning, which is actually is a part of online learning procedure. So the last thing is active learning is another extension from online learning, is that after you get your model training, you can rely on the scores provided by the model. You can, once you enable all the options I mentioned before, you will see the prediction scores inside the specific column called prediction score. You can sort out your task based in prediction score, and that's how you can establish the active learning procedure, because active learning is something where we rely on the less confident example. So here we sort out in ascending mode, we sort out our tasks based on the prediction score, and once we click on the label of task, it will show your task in the order of the prediction score. Or as an alternative thing, you can enable uncertainty sampling to distribute your task according to prediction score, and that's how you don't need to manually sort your task. So that while doing this sampling, everything will be shown up based on the list scores available. But we forgot to do actual thing. So we forgot to plug in our scores inside the prediction procedure. So basically, previously we I just shown you that how you can get the label, so actual the classes of the text inferred, but here is the way how you can get the score from the prediction. So basically just a couple of changes inside your predictions, and that's done. So you're plug it back inside your prediction. So result is structured as before, and you just add the score, and then here you are. You can rely on the prediction scores inside the column. So basically that's everything I want to. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, so I've got a question here. With the setup shown, can I train the model from Label Studio once I say correct pre-annotations, or do I need to set the inference and training interface to the model?
So I mean, you have multiple ways to start training your model. If I understood your question correctly, so you can. You mean I mean by the interface? If you mean by interface, is the API interface that allows you to interact with the model itself, or just wait. So I mean, answering the first question, yes, you can train. I mean, once you're satisfied with the results you get from your annotation process, you can just click on the Start Training button, which is located on the model machine learning page. Then after that, you will get the new model version, which comprises a corrected pre-annotations result. That's the one way. Yeah, another way is that you can rely on incremental training. So you don't want to manually click the Start Annotation button, but you can just say to your model, okay, send everything, every step I made inside Label Studio. And once I do that, you can do whatever you like on the machine learning backend side. You can skip some steps inside training, or you can, for example, you can train every 100 examples, or you can do like training. You can train. You can trigger training each example you get from machine learning from the Label Studio.
Okay, couple quick follow-ups. First of all, this is an easy one. Will we be able to make these slides available?
You mean right now?
Well, in the next day or two. that kind of thing. Doesn't have to be immediate.
No, but I mean the availability of what of the scripts you have, or I mean.
To share your slideshow, basically.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, cool, awesome. Good, because I already said yes. So I'm glad that's true. All right, so are you familiar with YOLO 5 by any chance?
I'm not familiar with all the versions of YOLO. Basically, yeah, I know like there's like a cool object detector. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've got a few questions about this. Let's see. I'm trying to make this kind of generally applicable. And by the way, now is a great time to ask questions if you haven't already. So, okay. Anything related to machine learning frameworks in Label Studio? Speak now. So YOLO 5, let's see here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here's the question. So for YOLO 5, I've trained an inference scripts, and I guess I need to set them up in a way that Label Studio has access to both scripts, one for pre-annotation and one for training. Is that true?
Yeah, but I mean, you can do if you want to split your code base into two different launching scenario. Like you have like one code base which acts as a server, as a serving endpoint. Another one is like training endpoint. So basically, what I think is the best way to do that is using machine learning backend to proxy the predictions to your prediction endpoint and annotations to annotated endpoint. So that's how we can do that in terms of the tackle with the two separate scripts. So I mean,
okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, please continue.
Yeah, or you can even, if you don't want to rely on machine learning backend, so you can specify the protocol inside your script so that they can exchange the data in between Label Studio and your bot script. So that's maybe the better option if you don't want to spin up another server with the machine learning backend, and you can just specify the protocol you're going to tackle with for machine learning integration.
I see Elton Mungani here submitting a question or typing it out. And while he's submitting that, I'm going to answer the unasked question that is on everyone's mind. No, we did not coordinate T-shirts for this webinar. That's completely random. We didn't talk about it in advance. I know that's been a burning community question. Sorry. I'm just stalling for time while they're forming their questions. Was there anything else you wanted to mention while we're waiting for these to get submitted? Nikolai, where in the world are you right now? How about that?
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, I'm under the real warm sun somewhere. Yeah, it's very hot here.
Somewhere. Okay. Fair enough.
Actually, yeah, I'm near the Atlantic Ocean in Portugal.
Ah, near the Atlantic Ocean. In the tropics. Okay, well, that tells us something. Sounds lovely. Still getting formed. Okay, so with respect to machine learning backend, so let me go through our machine learning channel while I'm waiting for this. I really do feel like I'm okay extending this into an awkward Q&A part, because talking about machine learning, especially with our CTO on the line, is something that's been requested for a while, so I don't want to waste the opportunity. Especially the reason I mentioned where Nikolai was for everyone is he's incredibly busy and he's definitely multitasking at the moment. So, all right, here we go. Here is Elton's question. Are you able to start the whole data analysis in Label Studio when using a machine learning integration in Label Studio without having used frameworks like Jupyter Notebooks? Thanks for stalling. You got it.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So, I mean, basically yes, but why do you need that? So I mean, if like a Jupyter notebook is something you're under your hands on your like daily routine. So I mean that's basically where you can start writing your code inside the Jupyter notebooks, and then you can just create the running machine learning backend from inside the Jupyter notebook. So yeah, that's because Jupyter notebook is just a development thing, and the machine learning backend is just interface. It's a number of tools you can play with to connect your code inside the Lego Studio. So I hope I will answer the question.
I think so. All right, so then I'm going to go to my closing slides now. Thanks everyone for your questions. Quickly, Nikolai, also thank you for your time. So for those who are watching this after the fact, or who didn't get a chance to submit questions or just thought of them and it's a little too late, we're always answering questions on our Slack. If you're not in our Slack, join our Slack. The team, including Nikolai, are very responsive, ridiculously so. I honestly don't know when they sleep, if they do. And so, yeah, we have a dedicated machine learning integrations channel on Slack that you can ask questions about all things ML. The bit.ly is on the bottom of the screen here. And yeah, next webinar is going to be Great Expectations in 2 weeks, partner webinar. We hope you'll find that useful. And thanks, Nikolai, again for your time. And thanks everyone for joining this webinar.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay.